Good day.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Tired.
Tired?
I wish I actually got like a full 8+ hours of sleep last night. I'm just like chronically tired because
You're working on sleep deprivation through the week.
yeah,
A
it's
little bit of
it's
sleep
not good.
momentum.
I'm like forgetting stuff now. Like I think it was Tuesday I forgot my work key at home, and then I went to work and obviously didn't have it. And then Wednesday I did the same thing after like
Uh,
after like distinctly trying to find it before going to work.
yeah, I have
And
this thing
then
where I'm like a total zombie in the morning, and so the night before I leave myself little notes all over the place.
yeah,
So,
well it's I mean, so the way it's working with me is right now my kid goes to sleep at around like 10 at night. We try getting him to bed at 9, but it doesn't work. Uh,
yeah.
and then, so if I go to bed at 9, I can get 8 hours sleep.
Mm. And he eats into that.
He eats into that. So it's like physically impossible for me to get 8 hours sleep for like the past uh, 8 months or something.
And remind me why you need to get up at 5 every day?
Because we've got a nanny. Vancouver daycare is ridiculously stupid, and you've got to be like on a 2-year wait list to get into daycare. So we've got a
Ah,
nanny instead, and I so the way it works right now is my wife wakes up with the kid and then gets him to daycare, uh, and then I pick him up in the afternoon. And so the nanny works an 8 hour day, and all of us work 8 hour days. But in order to accommodate the commute time, my wife and I, we have to offset our schedule.
got it.
So I go to work early and then pick him up early, and then she goes to work late and then works late.
Got it, man. Fun stuff. You
Yeah,
guys have this game all figured out, though.
yeah. Well,
I,
I'm sure we're not the only people that have got a bizarre schedule with less than adequate sleep.
yeah. And are you still co-sleeping?
Yeah,
I mean, you're in
yeah,
a
we are.
small place,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Our apartment right now is like, uh, I can't remember exactly how big it is. I think it's either 500 or 600 square feet,
Right.
which gives us our office space because we're computer addicts, and we each have to have a desk with computer, and so we've that's quote unquote the bedroom, and
It's
then
essentially a living space for one person, and you have a three-person family in there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, we did that a while, as you know, before we had our kid.
yeah,
It was okay, and I would almost happily go back to that, except
yeah,
with the third family member, that really throws a wrench in it. So I'm impressed. I'll say that.
yeah.
Hanging in there.
Yeah, well, we're going to be moving sometime in the next few months, so the plan is to give ourselves a little bit of extra space. Honestly, even just like an extra 100 square feet would be
Mm,
fine, like as long as he had a separate place that he could sleep. Because he's at this age, he's still super young. He doesn't need to like have slumber parties and stuff.
yeah.
Um, so yeah. But then, of course, when we were in San Francisco, we were in like 300 square feet. So
Oh
that's not
man,
even living space for one person.
I don't even think that's legal. Yeah. I'm these days. I guess I'm a little blessed. My daughter goes to sleep pretty consistently around 8,
Yeah.
and then she gets up at 8. So I also get up quite early, but not out of a necessity, more out of just trying to make time for myself to do projects, to get a little game time in, and so on and so forth. So try and head to bed late-ish. I don't know. By 11 is what I aim for. Get up close to 5. Doesn't always happen. So I
Yeah,
get my
so you're
6
not
hours
getting eight
in.
hours.
I'm not getting 8 hours. Oh no, that's I left that behind years ago. But I don't know. I maybe I'm coasting on caffeine and whatever else. But I try and aim for 6, and then maybe catch up a bit on the weekends. But my daughter cooperates, and of course my wife is at home with my daughters. So um, I don't need to play the same schedule games. Sounds like you guys are kind of doing with yourselves. So
Yeah.
yeah, works out.
Yeah, the weird schedule thing is weird, and I don't know. I'm not doing so well anymore with the chronic sleep deprivation. I've definitely noticed I'm getting more forgetful and more short-tempered and stuff. So
Yeah, brutal, man.
hopefully I can find a way to start improving on that.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, I mean, part of it might be age. We're getting
Yeah,
up there, you know.
yeah,
Which,
yeah. So,
you know.
so wait, you threw in the words some there where you were talking about how little time you have about playing video games. So how does that work?
In what sense? So lately, actually, I've figured out something that works a lot better.
Yeah.
I guess this is a good segue into what we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, we're actually like getting on
Yeah.
topic, like
Slowly getting there. Yeah, finding time to game as parents, even just I guess how we organize our life in general around
Yeah.
hobbies, not just games and so forth.
Yeah.
I was not doing very well for quite a while. I mean, I was healthy and stuff. That's not what I mean. I wasn't finding a lot of time for games.
Yeah.
Lately, actually, it's been okay, partially because I've been more disciplined. I have been getting up earlier, but also I sit in bed and play games. I mean, very obvious sounding solution maybe, but something I have always done, and I don't know why, but I'm just a little OCD about this. I like, in the same way you have your game backlog, I have I just have list of stuff I want to do, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like
Yeah,
I
I've
have the
got that
list
too.
of games I want to play, the list of movies I want to see, and I'm like obsessive about doing it in the right order. It's really bizarre. It's so bizarre. I can't even like explain it. Like if someone said, well, what's the difference? I don't even have an answer. It's just once I make that list, I can change the order around a little, but I get obsessive about sticking to it.
Yeah.
And so what tends to happen with any of these things, like with the film list and the game list, is I'll be able to power through it until I hit one of the items on the list that is a roadblock for some reason,
Yeah.
and then I just don't progress for like a year. So like on the game list, for example, if I hit this game so I know a game I was stuck on forever was Zelda Four Swords. Maybe I just have no friends, but like I couldn't find people to play it with me.
Is that the
And so,
GameCube one or?
the Game Boy Advance one.
Right.
And so I did eventually play it with some people. It's great. I would highly recommend that game if you haven't played it.
I played
Loads
it
of
by
fun.
myself.
Okay, well, if you get a group together, especially like I played it with a friend who was a really hardcore gamer, and then another friend who was just like, I played some games, yeah, whatever. So it was a fun combination because we were like, we knew what to do, and then he was kind of like catching up as we played, and by the end we were all kind of, really working together to solve the problems. And it's interesting too because I think anyway, if I remember, it's not the same game each time. It's like a randomly generated set of quests that you get. So
Maybe
something like that.
Maybe we played a different one. I got the one that was it was offered for free for like a week or something on the 3DS, and I thought it was just a port of the Game Boy Advance one, but I don't remember there being randomly generated stuff.
Is this like a very recent game?
No, it was like two years ago or so. I'm pretty sure it was a port of the Game Boy Advance game.
I call that recent, but yeah,
Right.
okay.
They did it while I was still in San Francisco, and they offered it free for like a week or something, and then that was your only opportunity to get it. Like you can't just buy it in the store.
Got it. Yeah. Honestly, I have no idea. I know that the Game Boy Advance one though had like different sets of quests. Like I remember you'd play it and you'd die.
Yeah.
So you'd go back the next day and reload your save game, and you'd be doing something totally different. So it wasn't like a set like sequence of things you did. So anyway, that was a good example. I guess a more recent example. I found it's easy to make time like when we go to bed for the night. My wife likes to read. I was kind of reading or studying or doing whatever, working on stuff. And recently I realized that's great game time, right? So I've been playing, like I mentioned, I've been playing Metroid Fusion. But on my big list of games, it's like the next game is a console game, right? It's like a Super Nintendo game. Well, I can't play Super Nintendo in my bedroom. All my retro stuff's downstairs in my game room.
Right.
And at like 10, my 1 hour slot before bed, I could head down there. But that's it's hard to explain. But I mean, after a hectic day, I'm home from work finally. We just put the kid to bed. Everyone's showered. It's like that little bit of time I could spend with my wife.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, that sounds pathetic because we're kind of just doing our own thing, and I'm talking now about how I use that time to play games. But sitting beside her with a Game Boy in my hand, we could kind of chat, and versus me saying, "Okay, I know it's pretty much bedtime, but see ya. I'm gonna head down to my game room and play Super Nintendo an hour." So I mean, I just got stuck for a long time, which is ridiculous and weird because I could just say, "Well, if I'm gonna play games upstairs, I'll play something else." But my solution to this, for what it's worth, I took my list and I broke it into two lists. I broke it into I guess the console games list and the portable games list, and then I kind of broke my time slots up too in my schedule so that like when I get up early on certain days, like if that's the game day, I can go in my game room and play console games. Otherwise, I'll just play these portable games while sitting beside my wife in bed.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Funny you mention the two lists because I've got the exact same thing right now.
Oh yeah.
I've got two games on the go. One, like you said, that you have to be in like a specific location to play. So I can play it like on my PS3 or my computer or something, and then I've got a portable game that I can be playing while commuting.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. And it works actually. It has worked out for me. I hope you've had success too. I've found too. Originally, I called them console and portable, but they mesh together a bit. What I mean by that, like for example, original Game Boy games. I find playing them on a Super Game Boy attached to a Super Nintendo was a much better experience. So all original Game Boy games go in the I guess what used to be the console category, whereas some computer games I can just play on my laptop.
Yeah.
If it's something that is, I guess, I don't know, important to me a little bit, or like a more cinematic experience, I might put it in the console list, like say Skyrim or something. But if it's just some little game that's kind of fun to play, I'll just play it on my laptop upstairs. So then that'll go on the console list. So yeah, it's a lot of manipulating lists to make things work, but it's worked out for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm noticing my mic flaring red here. I'm going to turn it down just a little. Yeah, it's been kind of the same thing for me. So my schedule hasn't always been the way that it is right now. At first, when we moved to Vancouver, I was working, but my wife wasn't. So she would look after him. I would sleep like normal hours. I was actually putting a lot of time into doing like learning Japanese or learning programming and stuff throughout the year, but also playing a lot of video games.
Cool.
So it's like we would put him to sleep at like, and especially when he was younger and he would go to sleep earlier, we would put him to sleep at something like 7 o'clock. And then
wow.
Yeah, which was, oh my God, I miss those days.
Funny, if I may interject very quickly, we've had the opposite experience.
Oh, yeah?
Our kid seriously would stay up till 12 with us every single night. Every
wow.
single night. Every single night, just would not sleep till we slept. And at one point we had her in her own crib and we put it in our room with us.
Yeah.
And she would like, it kind of worked at first, but because we'd been co-sleeping and we were trying to move her to her crib, but if she could see us, she just wouldn't sleep.
Yeah.
So when the lights were out and we were out, she'd finally kind of bubble down. And then recently it's flipped. Like now she sleeps at 8 and we'll wake up at 8. Like it's just wonderful. So
yeah.
I am, perhaps one of the lucky ones. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it was
broke in there.
Back in the glorious early days, I had way more time because we would put him down at like 7 or something, and then we might have to settle him once or twice, but we would basically have until like 11 or 12 or something, like 5 hours straight, where we could just work on projects or do whatever. So in the early part of the year, I was able to get a lot of gaming time in, and then when my wife went back to work,
end.
Yeah, we had no choice but to offset our schedule, and so for a while, my work was kind of demanding that we work more than an 8-hour day. So, and I guess combine that with the fact that I was doing teaching at night at a different college. So my schedule for a while started to be that Andrea would be the one that she would get up early and I would stay with him in the morning, and then that allowed me to just do whatever at night after she went to bed with him. So, but once that all kind of mellowed down and we reversed our schedules, that's where it's like I've just got no time anymore. So It's weird.
Mm.
It's like one parent can have spare time.
That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
I remember a long time ago. We were both living in Vancouver,
Hmm.
and my job was in Richmond. Oh man, South Richmond, and so I had about an hour commute.
Yeah.
Most of that was train, some of that was bus, and I mean, commuting sucks generally, but I was just very happy to be
I don't
able to do that.
I don't mind it if I am taking public transit.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. I remember at the time that was my argument.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to you, and you were like, "No, I have to live close to work. I'm like a 5 minute walk, an 8 minute walk. It's great, blah blah blah." And I remember thinking, "Okay, that is great." But like, I find at the time anyway, I'd find when I'm home, maybe I'm hanging out with my wife or I'm doing something. When I'm at work, I'm working. But that commute time forced me to just like do stuff. I guess like I would play
Yeah.
games. I would read. I would even work on stuff. So I actually liked that I had this 1 hour commute both ways
Mm.
because it forced me to have these 2 hours with my computer or my whatever game system to do stuff. And so now, I think anyway, like back then you were walking to work. I know you were still using that time in some way, but now,
Mm.
remind me, you're living in downtown Vancouver and you're working in Burnaby.
Yeah. So
So you have the Metro Transit
so
component of your
it's
commute.
not a perfectly ideal situation because I've got X minutes of walking to the train station, and
Right,
then
right.
I have to take the train for a little bit and then transfer onto a bus, and then I have to wait for that bus, and then a little bit of
Yeah.
a walk to work once I get off it. So it's not as ideal as some of my past commutes have been, where like it's just a straight bus ride the whole way.
And you don't have to be mindful of your stop. You can just get
Yeah,
super absorbed. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's a little bit harder. Like it was completely fine last month where I was listening to an audiobook, and it's like from the second I
Right.
close the door to the second I sit at my desk, I can be immersed in that. Whereas now, if I'm trying to play, so I've been trying to play Fire Emblem on my 3DS this past week, and I missed my stop on one of those days because it's just like when you're actively engaged in something like that, it's harder to pay attention to what the stops are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been there.
Um,
The best I had, I think it was when I was in Japan, a few times since I've lived in various places there. But there was one particular time where it was like an hour and a half train, but it was a straight train. Like I'd
yeah,
get on, and then my stop was the last stop. I mean, going home, of course,
yeah,
I had to be mindful and get off at the right place. But on the way to work, I had this hour and a half train ride where I got on, could do my thing. That's it. I would not miss my train stop because it was the last one. Once I
yeah,
noticed everyone around me piling out, that's great. Here we go.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean that was that's ideal.
yeah,
Hard, but
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so for me that would be ideal. Like when I lived in Australia and when I lived in Toronto, both of those times I had like a 40-minute commute where it was like on just a single piece of transit, and I thoroughly find that fine to just be able to sit and read a book or listen to music or do whatever for that whole time period. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that kind of goes out the window or at least to a different degree, once you have to start either driving or walking or
Oh, don't get
taking
me started,
transfers.
man. I've feared driving my whole life. Like I've always wanted to avoid having to commute by car. Always my whole life. And it's
Mm.
funny because we just bought a second car so that I can commute by car.
Yeah,
The reason I was commuting by Vanpool, my idea would be so the Vanpool actually worked out well. On paper, it sounds great. I walk to the Vanpool meetup place, get in the Vanpool. I'm in the Vanpool till they drop me off. If
yeah,
I'm not going to miss my stop because they're going to say, "Hey, we're here, get out." I
yeah.
can play games, everything's great. Various problems with just, I guess,
Timing.
workloads and stuff. Like yeah, exactly, timing. When I get busy, I'm going to miss my van pool on the way home if I have to stay. If I have to go in early, I couldn't rely on the van pool to get me in there earlier. And the other problem, actually, which never happens on Metro Transit, even buses, I'm okay, but in a van or a car, I get motion sick very easily.
Hmm.
So like I'd be trying to play games and I just wouldn't want to. Like it wasn't a fun experience.
Yeah.
So I've
I mean, that's
found
probably just comes down to who the driver was, right?
Yes, I could blame the driver, definitely.
Like having little micro motions on the steering wheel where they're trying to adjust into a straight line, but are constantly overcompensating. Like that would make a difference.
Definitely. We had two drivers, and there was one driver I always got motion sick, and the other driver I was fine.
Yeah.
But he was the backup driver, so I was
Right.
usually motion sick, and everyone liked that main driver because he got there faster. But
Right.
he'd be like, swerving around and just driving
Yeah.
like a wild man, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'd be getting in the van pool, and I would have brought a game or brought like my computer to work on some project or brought something to read, and I just wouldn't I just couldn't. My body would look at the paper and just be like I'm gonna get sick if I read this. So I was finding it was almost like the equivalent to driving, really. You just get in a vehicle for an hour and turn your mind off, and that's it, right? So now with the second car, I shift my commute around and go in earlier so that I avoid rush hour, and it's about a half-hour drive. So I'm wasting half hour of my life instead of an hour. Plus,
Yeah.
I've managed. I use that for like audiobooks and kind of studying things via audio, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's really just a matter of pushing things around to make it work. But yeah, that's no longer game time for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I remember like I used to drive my parents' vehicle to get to work back when I was in high school. And when you're taking the same route day in and day out, and like exactly how everything is, especially in rural Nova Scotia.
I was gonna
where
say,
it's
especially
like,
when it's Truro and you
yeah,
could go to sleep on the highway and you're gonna wake up in the morning fine. Yeah.
yeah, there's no other traffic basically. Yeah, I was definitely into blasting my music and singing along with lyrics and stuff back then. I find now when I drive, I do it so infrequently and it's always to a new destination, so I tend to just keep the radio off these days.
Got it. Got it. Okay, well, those are some interesting ways to fit in game time for sure. I'm wondering, so myself, I always create these elaborate schedules for myself. I kind of time box out all my time, and I say, at 5 a.m. I'm going to get up, and then those 3 hours I'm going to do this. The next day I'm going to do this, and so on. Do you have anything like that you do, or do you have any weird life hacks? I know you were playing games at lunch, for example, at one point. I don't know when that was, but you mentioned it.
Yeah, well, it's where when I used to work in film, it seemed like everyone was generally super into like socializing at lunch and stuff. So we would go out to restaurants pretty much every day. But when I started working in games, it seemed like everyone was much more interested in eating at their desks and watching Netflix or something. So yeah, I started transitioning this past project that I was on into playing stuff at lunch. So I got through a good number of games there, and I guess that was helpful because yeah, there's so little time to do it at home. And I'm doing the same thing now because the project that I'm working on right now, I'm remote working, whereas most of the team is completely somewhere else. So I'm doing the same thing where I'm playing games at lunch, or so I've got my PS3 plugged into my monitor at work.
Sweet. I think that's awesome. I've tried that, and I just can't make it work. I mean, I can play the game at lunch, I can get through games, but
Yeah.
I don't find it fun. Like, I'm not happy when I'm at work. I'm not miserable, but when I'm at work, my mindset is very like, I mean,
On the
I look
job.
forward to, well, kind of. I mean, even if it's not, I'm just not, like, when I play games, I want to be relaxed.
Yeah.
Like, in high school, at summer vacation, you might have your crappy job you do 4 times a week, and then there's like you get 3 days off. It's whatever, Saturday night, you don't work the next day. It's 11, you have no girlfriend, no nothing, friends aren't around. Just play games for like 6 hours. That feeling, like,
Yeah.
right? Like, I of course I can't recreate that perfectly, but to some extent, like when I do get up in the morning on, say, Saturday, which I didn't today, but if I get up early to play video games, kids are asleep, a kid is asleep, wife is asleep, play some games. What's the difference? Great feeling. At lunch, it's like, I don't know, there's people around me, and I've just been working, and I have some problems on my mind that I'm going to hop back into in another hour. Like, I can use that time to cross things off a to-do list,
Yeah.
which if I apply gaming to that, I'm sure I could get through some games, but it just wouldn't be as enjoyable of an experience. So I tend to use that time now for more maybe studying kind of stuff, or
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that's kind of why I was choosing to do games, because like I was trying to learn Japanese and stuff too, but I found it really hard to like try to process through the software and tasks and stuff that I'm doing all day, and then at lunch when I get my one break to continue trying to like learn something. Like
Mm.
I found that I really needed to have something where I could just not focus as much. So like I was playing like platformers and stuff like that at lunch, where it's like, I don't know, you
Right.
can just kind of like blast through some levels and kill some enemies and not put too much effort into it.
Got it.
Um,
Got it.
uh, so the I guess you used the word hack in there. The one thing that I do, haha, do. Um,
Ha.
the one thing that I'll do at when I've got my PS3 plugged in, for example, like I had that plugged into my computer at home for a while too, instead of my TV, because like if my kid is asleep, as we said, I'm in a small place, so any sort of flashing lights and stuff, we were kind of concerned that would be disruptive to the sleep when it goes down the hall towards their room. Like,
Mm.
so um, I would I put the PlayStation 3 onto my computer and I plugged it in with the HDMI into the monitor, and then I also used the old composite out. I can't remember if it's composite or component, but I'd use that and use an adapter to plug that into headphones.
Okay.
So I've got the same setup at work where I can just like use my headphones that I'm using for my phone or DS and just plug that into the PlayStation 3 during my lunch. Um,
Got it.
and so I actually took that a step further, because my wife and I get so little spare time with each other now, that our
Mm.
schedules are so offset, and I'm going to sleep at like roughly the same time as him. Um, so we have decided to on like Friday nights to start trying to watch movies or do something on the TV. Um, and
Like
so
some together time, you mean?
yeah, so a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago, like we watched um, uh, I can't remember the name. Wolf Children.
Speaking speaking of losing your memory and becoming forgetful.
Yeah, I think it was called Wolf Children. I'm just doing
Yeah,
like,
I know the one, the
okay,
Japanese cartoon,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
we watched that, and man, this story grows increasingly complex as I want to tell it. Okay,
you
so
have you have the time.
I did two weird things with that. One, so my old laptop, which was Windows 7, it's a Sony Vaio computer or whatever. Um,
Sure.
I've decided I plug that into my TV, and that's what we can watch YouTube and whatnot on.
Mm.
So that's just permanently out there because it's not really useful for me to do any sort of visual effects or programming and stuff on it these days.
Got it.
Um, so that's just permanently out there, except there's this wonderful company called Microsoft. I don't know if you've heard of them, but
Ah,
they made this thing
strikes
called
a chord.
Windows 10.
Oh yeah.
And
Wonderful
so
project.
when I upgraded that quote unquote to Windows 10, it got rid of all the drivers for everything. And so Sony's drivers combined with Windows 10 on that particular laptop, I just can't get the the DVD player slash Blu-ray player to work anymore. Um,
Wonderful. We have a computer with the same problem.
yeah,
I'm sure it's
so
not an isolated case.
I think if I were to actually just buy some software, maybe I could get the DVD to work or something. But anyway, so if I want to actually watch a DVD, I've actually got my PlayStation 2 plugged into that TV now. So that's my
Awesome.
DVD player. Uh,
Awesome.
so we watched Wolf Children on my PlayStation 2,
Okay.
and so that I'm using like the component cables, which is like the RGB and blue and green or whatever cables. And
Mm.
so that's going into the TV, giving the great image, and then I've got as great as the PlayStation 2 can manage. Um,
Right.
and then
I
I've
think it's DVD quality though. I mean
yeah
DVD, even
yeah
DVD is 640 by 480, I think.
yeah yeah. So I've got that plugged in, and then I've got the same thing where I've got the two audio cables for the stereo. I've plugged that into an adapter so that it can go into headphones, and then I've got that plugged into a separate adapter so that you can plug in two sets of headphones.
Okay.
So my wife
So
and
you're
I can,
both
yeah,
got it. All right.
so we
I
can
see
sit
where
on the
this is going.
couch and we can watch something on the TV, and we've each got headphones in. So at least we're not worried about any sort of sounds being disruptive to the kid while he's sleeping.
Do you ever like? I mean, I know when I have headphones on, I talk really loud. You guys ever accidentally like, start talking to each other and wake the
We'll
kid up?
like we'll like no, we'll like pause it and talk
Use
if
hand
we
signals.
want to.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we use baby sign language.
Got it.
So
Just
you
don't let them
know,
see it, right?
yeah, we'll pound the fist together to say more and
All right, got it. Awesome. Yeah, I figured with you guys living in such cramped quarters, you might have a little more, a few more hacks than we have.
yeah, that's basically the gist of it. Is
Yeah.
and you know, to be fair, we could probably get away with it entirely without the headphones because
Mm.
there's been a couple occasions where like I put him down for a nap and then I decided to make myself a bagel or something, and the smoke detector went off and he just kept sleeping right through it.
Awesome.
So, so I think a large part of our issues with like uh, not getting more time to ourselves and trying to do stuff quietly and stuff is just like self-inflicted misery.
Yeah, psychological
Yeah, we're
worrying
like
and
trying our
assumptions.
hardest to make everything nice for him, and as a result, we're like giving ourselves less to work with.
Yeah, yeah.
And he'd
Uh,
totally be fine with speakers
a-
playing and lights flashing.
and when he's like, yeah, when he's like 10 or whatever, he's not going to remember all your efforts over this period anyway. So,
No.
yeah, wonderful how life goes, huh? We have
Yeah.
some of that for sure. um, going back to the original question a little bit,
Hmm.
I mean, everything you said is interesting. I was thinking almost like schedule hacks. Like, is there any like for a while I was doing weird things like working extra long one day so that I could sleep in and play games over one long chunk of time on another day, or like I don't know, like one night per week just staying up ridiculously late and only getting like 3 hours of sleep. Just doing that
I w-
once and then I'd sleep in the next day and make up for it and get game time or
yeah.
work time in that way, stuff like that. Or are you more of a like go for consistency kind of
Well,
guy?
when our schedules reversed and my wife was the one going to work early and I was staying up late, like I totally abused that system, and there would be nights where I'd get like 3 hours sleep or whatever because I'm just like
Mm.
trying to do something, and my to-do list isn't just games. Like, so two, I have three primary to-do lists.
Man, seriously, when I hear you talk, it's like we do the same things to the extent where it's like just funny.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
I have like a set of interests I have, and
Yeah.
I made a mnemonic for them so I can always go through them quick. Like, what should I be doing right now? No, I can't do that. No, oh, I can do that. Yeah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, anyway, go on.
Yeah, you should see my Trello. I literally have 20 lists.
Yeah, I'll bet you do.
But I have three main ones.
Okay.
So the main ones are like long-term goals that I want to achieve.
Okay.
Like so over the course of my life, these are things I want to do.
Is that like a bucket list, or is that like
I
a be
guess.
doing this for 2 hours a day and eventually you'll be good at it kind of thing?
I guess. So it's literally called things I want to do, and it's places like go to Costa Rica, go to Japan, go back to Australia, and then there's like um, make a simple game, sell VFX on the Unreal Engine store, make a more complex game, uh,
Sure. No, I think that's cool. That's cool.
learn an Yngwie Malmsteen song on my guitar and stuff. So there's like long-term goals, and then I've got a year, like a yearly to-do list. So stuff that
Okay.
I think I can actually manage to do in the course of a year. And I've crossed off a good number of stuff this year. I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more goals that I had planned out to accomplish this year.
Closing in on the end of the year, man. That's per
It's
calendar year, I assume.
so starting in January. So it's pretty close
Mm.
that I can do that. And so I've got
Oh,
stuff
okay.
on there like one thing I need to do right now is write a will.
Mm.
But then another thing I need to do is uh, play Fire Emblem Birthright.
So you have like games mixed in with like adult stuff?
Yeah, so
Okay.
that kind of tries to keep me organized a little bit because it's like as I finish a game, then the next thing that's on my priority isn't necessarily a game.
Right.
So so
So
my
how does that work then? I'll break in and ask. Like if you are currently working at this goal and the goal is beat Fire Emblem and you're
Mhm.
playing it every day on your commute and eventually you beat it, okay, the next goal is make a will. I mean, are you doing that on your commute or like I imagine there's things that you have to be in a certain location for
Yeah,
and there's things you don't.
yeah. So I'll have multiple things on my doing list at one time. I've actually
Got
broken
it.
this down into like the same type of system that we used, a similar system to what we used for stand ups for Scrum. So I've
Okay.
got like my to do list. From that, I've got like my priority queue, which is only a
Mm,
select few number of things. And then I've got the
got it.
things that I'm actually doing. And then I've got the list of things that I'm blocked on and cannot do for some reason. And
Got
then
it.
the list of stuff that's either done and the list of stuff that I gave up on because I felt it was a waste of time.
But you keep a list of that stuff?
Yeah.
It's
So
just
for
you can look
example,
over it someday and be like, ah, maybe I should do this, or oh, that was silly.
well, I wasted my time on. So I started to play Gianna Sisters, Twisted Dream, I think it was called.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and my goal was to play through a select number of games in Japanese this year, and that was one of the games that I owned that is in Japanese.
Okay.
And there's tons and tons of Japanese stuff there that I could be translating, which takes me forever because I don't know the language.
Right.
But the actual gameplay I did not enjoy at all. So I
Right.
gave up on that after like 5 levels.
I see.
And then I was saying last time I was reading The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and I just didn't enjoy it, so I just put that off. And but so yeah, so I'll have multiple things on my doing list. So right now, I'm trying to make a book that's got pictures of my kid from each day that he's been alive. So
Oh
we
yeah.
did one last year, and now we're doing one this year. So I've got to like organize all the photos into a book and so that we can get that printed.
So you have like year one of his life, year two of his life.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
um,
Cool. Are you still doing this? Like you've literally not missed a day since he's been born.
yep. Yeah, we've got
Wow.
a photo. So I've actually been doing two projects with that. One is I do literally just a face photo every day,
Hmm.
and I've put no effort into that other than just trying to take the photos. But my end goal is to turn that into a video so that we can watch him age.
Hmm.
And then, if he's at the park and he's going down the slide for the first time, or if he's like covered in spaghetti or something, we'll just snap a photo living in the moment. And so that's what goes into the book.
Got it.
Um, so I don't think there's been a time where we've missed a day taking a photo with him, which is easy at this point because we spend every day with him.
Well, I was gonna say there's been times where haven't you been away for like a few days or a
I've
week or
been away
something
for
where
a few days, but Andrea hasn't. Like there's
of course, but I mean she
yeah,
she hasn't come to you and been like, sorry, I missed that day or anything.
no,
Good. Cool.
no. So I mean, knock on wood, it's working so far. But
Hmm.
as he gets older and he starts going to camp by himself or whatever, like it's going to be an impossibility to track every day
Well,
unless he takes selfies. But
I was gonna say I don't know if you're gonna still be doing this when he's like 15 and he's like, Dad, man, come on.
yeah, I don't know. I there's almost no photos of me as a kid,
Hmm.
and I kind of am disappointed by that.
Yeah.
There's much less of a record, and I don't know.
I totally understand that. And the ease of creating a record now is like
Yeah.
totally different than it's ever been, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't have given my parents this expectation to do some project like this
Yeah.
then, where I mean, even the photos that do survive, they look obviously they're after the fact. You take the picture and you develop the film later, and they're always like, probably my parents took like they could only take 20 pictures, so they
Yeah.
took 20 and 10 turned out.
Mm.
Whereas now it's like, you could put the fast shutter on and pick the best picture like on the spot kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the task that I am trying to do in my spare time right now. If I have spare time at home.
Right.
So once that finishes, my plan is to play Rocket Birds in Japanese, and then do stuff with the C++ course I've been taking, and write my will. So it goes back and forth between like games and actual meaningful life tasks.
Games can be meaningful. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I get it.
I mean, yeah. I enjoy
adult stuff.
I enjoy them greatly, and I feel that they enrich my life. But there's other things that have to be done.
Yeah. I will say I feel like your schedule making and list making, based on what you told me anyway, it sounds very organized by priority kind of, or by like I'm going to do this year, this year. I tend to categorize things. So going back to lists, it's like I have my list of games I want to play. I have my list of game ideas I'd like to make before I die.
Well,
I'll
that's
make one.
Yeah, that's
and
what,
I'm sure you do too.
That's what all my
right?
various other lists are.
Sure, but like for me, I guess I have I take those lists, those category lists, and then when I'm planning what to do, I don't have like a priority list so much as I have almost like this time boxed schedule where at this, like, I'm going to make stuff up, but like on Monday mornings, I'm going to play games every day. I would look at the game list and go through it in that order. On Tuesday morning, I'm going to like watch a movie every day. And here's all the movies I want to see. So next on the list is this one. And it's like, it's almost like I have 5 active cues that I'm always feeding from the top of and adding on the bottom of, and just working through bit by bit over the course of, say, a week. I mean, I have like my weekly schedule, right?
Yeah. I don't really have that luxury right now. Just because basically my schedule is I get up, I go to work, I come back, I look after the kid until we both go to sleep. And then I have the weekend, but like Andrea works as a character animator, and the production she's been on has been ridiculous. So she generally works on the weekends. So like she's away for the morning right now, but then I'm going to be looking after him for the rest of the day when she goes to work, right? So for right now, I can't really do that. It has to be a priority list for me, which I because I'm using Trello instead of just like paper, it's certainly easy for me to just constantly shuffle stuff around. So
that's very interesting too. I mean, I also have all these crazy lists, and I gave Trello a try, and I stuck with it for a long time, and I've since backed away from Trello. I don't know what it is. It's very colorful, and I can see it being useful. I see it as being useful for collaboration, especially.
Yeah.
Because you can mark things, and other people can move stuff around, and it keeps a record of where stuff's been moved and stuff. But for my just like game lists and stuff, Notepad++, everything. I've gone back to it so many times. I just realized it works for me. Everything I do in Trello, I can do more easily in Notepad++. There's probably things like, maybe for you, there's things that you do in Trello that you couldn't do in Notepad++. I'm just not doing those things, maybe.
Well,
I'm not sticking colors and stuff.
I like to keep stuff compartmentalized so that I can focus on just a small amount of things. So like
for me, that's multiple files, right?
Yeah, which is, so that's multiple to-do lists for me. So I've got a list specifically of video games, specifically of books, specifically of Japanese resources.
Yeah. Do you have like one Trello board with all that stuff?
Yeah. Well, no. So each of those are a separate board. Right.
So each of those would be a separate file, and then within the file, I would probably have like multiple lists in the file.
Yeah, exactly. And so the advantage of that is that when I'm making like my year to-do list, I can like go into my books and I can say, okay, well, these are my top 3-4 books or whatever. These are the top X number of video games. These are the resources I think I can actually cover in Japanese this year. And then I can pool those all together. And so because Trello lets you send things between your boards, then I can keep each thing separate, right?
Right. Interesting. I just find, for example, with Notepad++, it's just, I mean, once you get used to keyboard shortcuts and stuff, it's just so easy to like, you could grab 5 things and move them to a different place, or like duplicate something quick. Like Trello, I'm always using the mouse and dragging things around. Like, I mean,
which maybe that's just the difference between you being a programmer and me being an artist, right?
Maybe, but maybe, I don't know, right? I also like generally kind of these visual cues, and I can work with a visual system, but it's just slower for me, I guess, is what it comes down to. So, but interesting. I don't know. That's
basically the only thing I can do is I have a prioritized list, and when I happen to find some spare time, or make some spare time, then it's like whatever's on that list is getting done, and you know, like I said, because I can shift that around, if suddenly it becomes more, it's just a realistic wave. If something is more urgent, that gets done first.
Got it. For me, like my categories, I have my film category, I have the games I want to play, the games I want to make. I have a category, it's like work on your website, which I never did. So it's kind of a dead category, but I leave it in my mnemonic just because I'd someday maybe like to activate it, but it's there. And then playing games, exercise, study stuff, drawing, trying to learn to draw. That's more fun than like a dedicated effort to like get good. So that's just, it's not like I have to spend this long on it every week or anything like that. But I do treat games and like working on projects, studying. I make sure like there's an hour amount, just because I feel like I'd like to keep those up. And then like this is where it's kind of interesting. I have all those categories broken out, and then my last category is tasks, and that's every other thing, and that's kind of those adult things, like you mentioned, making a will. For me, it's like fix this, do this, pay this bill. I myself, we're going to make a will next year. So on and so on. So I obviously focus on the fun and shove everything else into one last little side category so I can forget about it. But
I mean, it's when I was in college, I would have like a big calendar on my wall that you could use dry erase stuff with, and I would just like, I had a literal schedule for when I would do homework and stuff. So you know, if someone wanted to invite me out or whatever, I'd be like, sorry, this is my block of window where I'm going to get stuff done. So,
oh man, for me, before I got married, like when I was single, I was in full control of my time, my finances, my everything, and I was so particular. Like the system we're talking about with lists and stuff, it was like list mania back then, and it worked actually, and it was crazy, and people thought I was totally off the wall, but it worked really well. And I just found I've been losing control of that as I got married and had a kid, and you know, I've no guarantee when the kid's going to wake up or go to sleep or maybe get sick for a few days. And I'm sure you've experienced something similar. But I don't know. It's not that I miss those days, but I do miss the control. You know, like if I could get back to that, it would just be so much more productive. For sure.
I struggle with that so much.
It's a constant issue with me.
You know, I'm an introvert. So I like to have time to myself. I like to be able to focus on a project or whatever, and it's been difficult for me adjusting to being a parent and not having not having any freedom to just do stuff when and where I want, which I doesn't take away necessarily from the fact that I still enjoy having a kid, and I'm excited for him to get older so I can be playing games with him and teaching him stuff. And but yeah, for right now, when he's still in such an early point where he's like just starting to learn how to talk and communicate, it's hard.
Yeah. No, I'm sure we've had a very similar experience there. I mean, I'm arguably more introverted than you. I'm even like, if I don't get my alone time for like say a week, I start to really like get like almost like emotional and all messed up. Like it's super important for me. So I understand that struggle. I very much do.
Yeah.
That's motivation to get up at 5. Well, for me anyway. It sounds like you have other that part of your day is already plugged up. But
yeah, I'm up at 5 because I have to go to work.
Yeah. Brutal.
uh,
It gets better,
and
man.
it's
It'll get
hard. Like
better.
I used to be a morning person, so
Mm.
uh, like back when I was living in Vancouver last time, it's like I would wake up early in the morning and I would work on like an indie project or do financial stuff or whatever first thing in the morning, and then I would go to work, and because by the time I come home from work, I'm kind of drained and can't really
Mm.
do anything. So
Yeah.
it was like that last night. Like I wake up at 5, I go to work, and by the time I come home and have spent a few hours looking after a hyperactive kid, 9 o'clock comes along, and I just don't have the energy to even stay up and watch a movie. Uh,
Yeah, man, I hear you. I've gone the opposite way. I think I never used to be a morning person. And I'd come home and do stuff. I'd stay up really late. I'd work on things. I'd play a lot of games and so on. Um, but for the reason you're saying, like as I've gotten older and my job duties have increased in complexity, and
mm,
I'm just now finally I'm doing a job that does drain me by the end of the day. So I'm forcing myself to be a morning person so
yeah.
I can avoid that. So. Yeah, interesting.
Yes,
Well,
so there's not a whole lot of other options for me right now. It's like I play games when I'm commuting. If I can find some spare time, I can do it at home after I've done other important adult
right.
stuff. But and then the last option is if I'm on the toilet.
Yeah, we've all been there too. That's when I hack at my portable game list,
Right.
right? All right. Well, that was interesting. I guess one last
Yeah.
question for you. Since your schedule's all sounds like all your time's spoken for
Well,
recently
hopefully
anyway.
stuff's actually going to change.
Well,
It's
that's my question actually. That's my question. Like when stuff does change,
mm.
what changes are you going to make? What are you going to do with your time? How are you going to make time for games at that point?
I haven't thought that far ahead,
Haven't had time to, right?
which is bananas because it's only 2 weeks away that things are going to change.
Right.
Because
That is bananas. I'd be all over that, man.
yeah, I tend to think of stuff as priorities, so I
Mm,
guess I'll have to wait and see how exactly it does my schedule change, and then come up with a new plan of action. Um,
got it.
but yeah, because I'm planning on a move in the near future, um, so Andrea, her contract was supposed to go into the beginning of November, so she's not renewing, so that we could move. Which means we're gonna have at least 2 months where she's able to look after him full time. So I might not have to get up at 5 and go to sleep at 9 anymore. So
Nice. Might be a good chance to catch up on some sleep before you start
yeah,
jamming
well, I mean,
tasks and adult stuff in those time slots.
that's honestly part of the reason why I haven't thought that far ahead. Is
Mm,
I'm seriously looking forward to like feeling rested for a change, and
yeah, I
uh,
hear you.
this has been like non-stop crunch since like a month before he was born.
Yeah, brutal. All right, all right. Well, maybe we'll touch on this topic again at some point
Yeah.
when, yeah, everyone's lives have gone in their whatever fated directions.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, why don't we finish just really quickly? Maybe touch on what gaming we have managed to do lately. It sounds like you were playing Fire Emblem. Any
Yep.
updates?
I'm almost 10 hours into that
Nice.
on normal mode, and yeah, I like the game. I like the music a lot too, actually.
Cool.
It's 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 not the first Fire Emblem game that I've played, so I'm used to the mechanics and stuff, and there are some new things, but it does also feel like the formula hasn't evolved enough over time for me to necessarily continue to be interested in future games.
I mean, the series is what as old as us
Yeah,
almost.
and
Yeah,
and
and it's
and it's been a pretty subtle amount of changes that have happened since then.
mm,
So the story is great, and I'm enjoying it, but um, it's disappointing that the battle mechanics weren't better balanced, because like I know them well enough that easy's just not a challenge for me, but hard was like literally the random number generator was killing characters with me not being able to do anything about it. So
yeah. Got it. Little broken. Did you play any of the Wars games, like the Famicom Wars, Advance Wars?
No, I've been meaning
Yeah.
to. I've had the. I don't own any of them, but I've been
Mm.
heard that the Advance Wars one is like one of the best games.
Advance Wars is very fun, I think. It's been quite a while since I played it, but I remember thinking of it as another Fire Emblem-esque game,
Yeah.
and then playing it and being like, oh wow, it's something about it. I mean, it's of course very different. It's more cartoony. It's less like serious story,
Mm.
but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I'd recommend it if you do enjoy this game.
Yeah,
And you're looking for something.
yeah, I
a
want to
little
give that a
different.
shot someday. I've got a couple of strategy, tactical stuff that I'm planning on playing in the next couple of years.
Down there somewhere on that priority list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, so this year I want to finish Birthright, and then I'm expecting I won't get to finish Conquest, the part 2 of the game, until next year. And then I've also got Frozen Synapse,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which is
Very cool game.
and I guess that's all that I managed to fit onto my to-do list for next year.
Silly man.
I've got a few different games. Like I want to replay Final Fantasy Tactics because I love that, and
Yeah, I loved that back in the day.
well, they made an update to that was on the PSP, and I guess it's the same as what's on iOS. That I picked that up, and I really love the changes that they made to it. And,
What's different?
so they added cutscenes for one that are like an animation style that I really like. That's like this cross-hatched ink sort of look.
Awesome. Yeah.
And
Cool.
and so they've redone the entire script for it to sound more like medieval English or something. And I don't know. They just did a much better job with the translation of it this time around. And
Got
there's
it.
like some subtle things. I believe they added Balthier from Final Fantasy 12 as a secret character or something, and
Okay.
so there's enough changes in it that I want to see what that is, because I only played through like the first chapter, and I definitely preferred it to the original.
Interesting.
Cool. And then I want to play through Shining Force games and the Banner Saga and a bunch of others that I've got, but
Yep. Cool.
time.
Cool.
So yeah,
All right.
I've been playing that, and did you get any more time on Fusion?
I actually beat Fusion.
Yeah.
Short game, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it last time. I've kind of ceased to be a completist, so I beat it. I felt good, and then it gives you the end screen and it gives you a completion rate or an item collection
Yeah,
rate, and it was 47%. I remember I thought at the time, oh man, like even just 3 years ago, I would have been like, oh, time to go and like get everything.
Yeah.
Instead, this time I was like, yep, cool, click, done, cross
Yeah.
off the list.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
Totally no enthusiasm to go hunt for 53% of the hidden items.
Yeah.
I knew I was missing stuff because like you have 2 rows of potential like life, and you get like the one little chunk every time you get an energy tank, and I just gotten the first chunk in the second row.
Yeah.
I mean, the game, I found some of the bosses challenging actually, but
Well,
most of
probably
it was
because
just like
you had under the recommended number of
Possibly.
energy bars, right?
Well, even with my energy at that level, I mean, a lot of the bosses, you'd fight them once and die,
Yeah.
but you'd get their pattern, and then the next time it's like literally just this battle of attrition. You
Yeah.
just avoid their pattern and shoot them, and they'd occasionally hit you, and repeat, and
Yeah.
just hope that they die before you, and it would work every single time.
Yeah.
So I mean, with even more energy tanks, it would have just been a cakewalk, I thought.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you fight a version of yourself, don't you, near the end?
yes, you do, and it's a surprisingly easy battle.
I was gonna say I felt like that
it's-
was the opposite for me. I felt like that was the hardest battle in the whole game.
Well, I feel like all the battles, maybe there's like a trick to them, right? And if you figure out the trick, it's easy, and if you don't, it's tough. And I found there's a few battles I had to do a few times, and it's like the last time I did it, it was super easy because I figured out the trick. But that version of yourself you fight, by that point in time, you have the oh man, I can't remember what it's called when you jump
Space jump.
and you. Is that what it's? Isn't the space jump like you can jump really high or you can repeatedly jump? It's the like you damage people. The spin
Screw
attack. Screw attack, yes. You have the screw attack by that point.
Yeah.
And when you're doing the screw attack, not only are you hurting them, but you're invincible.
Hmm.
So all you do is just jump around like crazy, and he can't hit you. And then as you observe him or her, I guess, or the life form. And then when they pause for a second, you shoot them.
Yeah.
It's easy. So without that spin attack, it would have been really tough, actually. The toughest point in the whole game for me, there's a part where you have to. It is actually that copy of yourself. You have to run through a hallway past them,
Right.
and then they chase you.
Right.
And you have to like jump, like blow things up, and go through this little hole as it chases you. That was really tough. I did that like 20 times. I mean, with my amount of life I had, they would literally kill me in 2 hits.
Yeah.
So it was like you drop down into this room and they hit you right away, and then the rest of the time is me frantically trying to get through there before they killed me with their one hit with their wide beam they had.
Yeah.
So anyway, overall, fun little game.
Was it, what,
I'm
2-3
happy to
hours?
have played it. 4.5,
Okay.
I think. I mean, it's most of the Metro games. You know, you beat them in under 2 hours or
Right,
under 1
right.
hour and a half or whatever, and then you get the special whatever. But this time, I don't even care. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like necessarily racing through games,
Yeah.
and I'm just because I don't have so much time. I don't want to replay games so often. So I don't know. I'm not so interested in the time battle.
Yeah.
But having finished that, I'm now moving on to Cave Story. I don't know if you've beaten that or
Nope, I
played
haven't
it.
played it. It's in my collection.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I have it on 3DS actually, so it goes on
Okay.
the portable play in bed list. I'd actually played through, I don't know, maybe half or a third of it, and I loaded my game. I have no idea where I am, so I'm just gonna start over. So I played it for about 5 minutes last night. I put it on hard mode, and then at the same time, I'm also playing the first Gargoyles Quest game.
Right.
That's my console game.
I've never played any of them.
They're fun. They're a lot of fun, actually. Especially, I like the second and the third a lot. The first one, it's it's okay. It's kind of it goes back to my OCD having to beat everything in a certain order.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I would go through a series of games, I beat them like 1, 2, 3, and I never skip anything. So one very much feels like an early Game Boy game. Like it's kind of slow and clunky and all that. It's fun, but I just can't wait to play 2. Really,
Yeah.
That's what motivates me to play it. So.
Yeah, it's weird because I still have a lot of that where I want to play stuff in order, and so it's like I own all the Phantasy Star games and I've never played any of those. But the fourth one I hear is really good. And it's
Phantasy Star, man. I decided to play those in order, and the first game is brutal. I don't know if you've played it.
No, I haven't, and so I feel like
You might want to skip it.
yeah, I'm going to skip 1, 2, and 3 and just go straight into
Yeah.
4.
One is it's like cutesy and weird and broken and unbalanced. I mean, maybe some people would yell at me for saying that because it's this classic
Yeah.
in some way or
It's
whatever.
like
And
it's
I
like
usually
Dragon
have
Quest 1, right? Like that game
Well,
was foul, but
I liked it. Really? Okay. Well, sure. I get how someone could think that, but I usually have a lot of tolerance for like games that are so old
Yeah.
that most people would just snuff their nose right away. Like I beat a Calibeth last year. I don't know if you know what that is.
no.
It's Ultima Zero. It's what's his name? What's his name?
Richard
Captain
Garriott?
Britain or whatever. The
Yeah,
Richard
yeah.
Garriott. Yeah. It's his first game, and he made it before Ultima, and then it inspired Ultima 1. It's like from the late 70s. It's all like vector lines
yeah.
and stuff. It's brutal.
Yeah.
But I beat it because I thought, I'm going to play through the Ultimas. I'm going to beat Ultima Zero first. But that said, just Phantasy Star, it's not even that the game is boring. It's just like so cutesy and terrible music. I felt like I was playing like a Popples game or something.
yeah.
But 2 looks good.
Yeah, 4's on my
Skip,
to-do list
skip.
for next year.
Right. I just bought the Fantasy. Despite my bitching about Phantasy Star 1, I just bought the Phantasy Star collection for Sega Saturn. So
Nice.
maybe I will go and actually overcome it someday. You
and I can play 4 at the same time next year.
All right. That requires me to fly through 1, 2, 3 though.
Well, get started.
I'll
I'll wait till November.
The only reason that I beat Final Fantasy VIII, the only thing compelling me to finish that was this thing I have where I have to beat everything in order. So I couldn't play any more of these games until I beat it. And it just left such a sour taste. I never went back.
Yeah.
So I never beat 9. But at least the door is open now, right? Like I could go and play
Yeah.
it.
We'll have to go over our passion for 8. We'll have to have a podcast specifically for that.
I could spend an hour or two on that. Yeah.
Speaking
Passion
of which,
for
we're
8.
actually over an hour.
We are, yeah.
So not bad for a half-hour podcast, but
Not bad at all. All right. Well, good time to wrap it up. I'm sure my wife is like, "Oh man, get over here and help me with the kid," kind of thing. So.
okay. Yeah. So good conversation. And so I guess next week we're actually going to be in the same location. So,
Indeed. So
um,
we can do an in-person dealio.
yeah. All right.
Cool. Cool mania. All right, man. Well, I'll see you then. Like literally. Ha.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers, mate. Take care.